So let's go ahead and get started. Are you guys ready? Awesome. Thank you so much for everyone to join the webinar series. Our first session out of the series is today. It's really around the foundation of your AI strategy. We have myself, Melanie Ramsey. I am an account executive in oil and gas and an integration business advisor. We have David Vancina on as well. He's our distinguished client architect, focusing on integration strategy as well. And then Michael Salimi, principal client solutions engineer in the oil and gas and utility space. We are really looking forward to today's session. Next slide, please. I want to just kind of give how the day is going to run. And it starts with obviously our session today, why agent fabric is imperative for oil and gas. You could go ahead and scan the QR code here. It will give you additional material to deep dive into after the session. Know that these are going to be recorded, and anyone that has registered will have access to these. We're going to turn it over to Michael Salimi to get started with why agent fabric is imperative for oil and gas.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for joining and choosing to spend some time here today. So we've got just a quick 30-minute session here. We'll talk about some areas today, some of the challenges that I'm seeing in oil and gas and the energy industry. I live around the Houston area. I've been here 30 years. My first job out of college 30 years ago was at ExxonMobil, and I've been inside several super majors then. So we're seeing a lot of transformation in the industry and a lot of challenges. And this next wave, we'll be talking about the architectural imperative around AI and the energy industry. And so then we'll spend some time with an industry demo, very focused, relevant for asset management heavy organizations like energy and such. So we'll talk about that. And then a quick panel discussion. This is planned to be a strategy where it gives you everything you need to lay the foundation for the next wave of automation for your industry. So thank you for choosing to spend some time with us today. We hope to make this valuable, and we'll do the very best we can. Any questions that you have through the course of this Zoom session, feel free and hit the Q&A, and we'll get to those at the panel session at the conclusion of this. All right, so first, I think we'd start off with a quote with Amin Nasser, who's the president and CEO at Saudi Aramco, of the largest super major of them all, right? So we understand the history there. And he said if you drill a well and you capitalize on AI and digitization, you can increase the productivity 2 times as much. A lot of people get an AI fatigue and they're going, whatever, whatever. However, we think back about the energy industry, and this is built on automation and safety. And we extended our leverage through automation and such, and really just the next wave of that. So what we prepared is in that spirit. And based on what we see in the industry and some of the folks that I talk to day in and day out around Houston and other places, these continue to be driving factors in the industry. Automation, safety, though, around the automation, right? And in the energy industry, safety is our number one value. Energy transition, sustainable business models is the concern. Being able to optimize how the field works through automation. 30 years ago, they were operating on bid chief tablets. A CEO of a large midstream company met several times around Houston in the past several years, says we run our business off of bid chief tablets. That's how we feel. But it's evolved since then. People are actually on smart tablets that are doing predictive things and such. And so the intelligence is improving that. And then how the workforce is engaged and stuff. These are all trends. Well, this is really just an evolution of the trend in terms of enterprise automation in the industry. There's been a proliferation of agents that are being created. David, go ahead if you would. It's got some great things from an architect perspective on laying the foundation for this next wave. David?
All right, thanks, Michael. Before we dive in too deeply on agent fabric, well, first of all, I want to talk a little bit about what exactly is the problem that we're trying to solve. Now, in 2025, MuleSoft conducted its connectivity benchmark report. This is a survey that we've done for the last 10 years or so. And as always, one of the things that the survey showed is that enterprises in oil and gas, as well as across all industries, have an enormous number of applications to manage in order to run the business. These span domains like finance and accounting and customer management and supply chain. So again, what's the problem that we're solving? The problem with respect to AI and agents is that every one of these applications is now adding an agent, whether it's SAP with Joule, Salesforce with Agentforce, Workday, ServiceNow, all of these applications that you run your business on are introducing agents. Now, the challenge with that is that these agents are all built with different styles. They're built with different security levels incorporated into them. They are specialized for the domains that they focus on. And the result is that you can end up with agents that are siloed, inconsistent experiences, security and compliance risks, and just inefficiencies in the workflows of managing these AI agents. So the solution that MuleSoft has brought to the market is MuleSoft Agent Fabric. Agent Fabric allows you to govern and orchestrate your AI agents wherever they come from, governing any agent anywhere. And this is an important point to make because MuleSoft, as you all know, is a Salesforce company. We do an excellent job, better than anybody, at providing integration for Salesforce and Salesforce technologies. But many of you may not know that MuleSoft, before its acquisition by Salesforce, was an independently, very successful enterprise integration technology based on the integration of applications and APIs, not from any one vendor, but across vendors. One of the things that's really important to understand about Agent Fabric is that it is not focused on technologies just from Salesforce. The ability to govern any agent anywhere is literally the pattern that we have continued to develop and deploy. So your ability to orchestrate agents across all of these different ecosystems, as I mentioned, all your different application vendors are going to be bringing LLMs, agents into your environment, and the question of how to manage them becomes paramount. And in addition to being able to orchestrate actions across those, you also need to be able to see how those agents are interacting. Now, the capabilities that we bring in order to meet this need in Agent Fabric break out into four major categories. An agent registry that allows you to register and discover the agents that you've got in your environment. Agent orchestration that allows you to specify for given business activities and processes what are the agents that should be involved, whether there's a finance and an HR component or a supply chain and a discovery component or whatever it might be. You're going to have agents, as we saw illustrated previously, that are specialized in those areas. So being able to orchestrate them correctly is going to be a huge part of getting effective use of agents over time. Now, along with that is agent governance, the ability to implement security policies in an enterprise consistent way across all of these different agents. As mentioned before, every agent has its own style and has its own security, or in some cases, even lack of security. So Agent Fabric gives you a consistent way of governing those agents and then providing observability, visualization, being able to see live how agents are interacting, where there are hotspots, performance issues that might need to be dealt with. All of this, of course, is based on the emerging standards of MCP and A2A. And later on in this webinar series, we'll talk about more of the details of how MuleSoft helps you implement those. Depicted as in an architectural view, historically, Mule has provided access to the infrastructure layer, integration of your core business applications based on a composable architecture. That composable architecture is built on APIs, on event and message propagation, on automations and integration to all of those underlying applications. These are the capabilities that MuleSoft has historically brought. What we are now seeing, and we've got Fortune 500 customers who have been our launch partners, is the ability now to add an agentic architecture layer that provides all of these coordination and orchestration and governance requirements. The key thing to understand is that all of the agentic capabilities that MuleSoft is bringing are not brand new. I'll sometimes joke saying we didn't just code this up 6 months ago when the market got cool. These are things that MuleSoft has been doing literally for 10 years, bringing enterprise class integration. And the agentic architecture layer is merely an extension into the agentic world. It's a little known fact that when you scratch the surface on an agent, pretty quickly you get down to APIs. So we've been able to bring that kind of reliability and scalability to agent orchestration. We'll just wrap up by pointing out how, as illustrated earlier, you're going to have agents across multiple domains, whether it's production, R&D, whatever it might be. Your agent registry will provide you a way to define those agents. The agent orchestration layer will allow you to specify how they should work together in order to support your business processes. And all of it is going to be tied together with MuleSoft's Anypoint platform, giving you the visibility and scalability and performance. So we'll talk about this more as we get deeper into our webinar series. For now, we'll wrap it up here. And Michael's going to start to drill down and show us some specific application areas to foster thinking in your own businesses.
Michael, are you there? We go.
All right, you should see my screen with the survey and live poll, Melanie. Yes?
I do. For the attendees on the call today, go ahead and scan the QR code. We're going to do a poll. It's very interactive. Couple questions. I think there's only 3 questions, and you'll have a chance to win Max the Mule if you respond to the survey. We're really looking forward to hearing your answers. And again, because we're going to be building on this today's webinar for next week's and the following, we're going to use your information to make sure we're relevant going forward. With that, I'll turn it back over to you, Michael.
Yep. Thank you, Melanie. So the poll's still going on. There's just a few questions. There's about 10 seconds per question. So go ahead and get your responses in. We're now on the 3rd question, just the last 10 seconds. You should see it activated in your app. You want the Mule plushie. The last question, just provide your name or email, some way we can contact you so we can organize and coordinate getting that information to you, getting the plushie to you. All right, now let's go on to the part where I'm kind of good at in terms of solution engineering. However, I'm going to tell this context in the context, or tell this demo in the context of a story, right? So imagine we've got an energy company, Lone Star Oil, and Lone Star Oil's operations executive wants to find a way to get better at handling the backlog of maintenance. There's a backlog of maintenance on the pipeline. There's a backlog of maintenance in the refinery, each with different priority levels and such. Each of them have different mean time to repair. And anytime there's an emergency or unplanned event, then that entire backlog needs to get relooked at. So the operational executive says to an IT manager, how can we use some of this automation and this agentic capability to automate the meantime repair and meantime to repair across our backlog, get the right people in at the right time, and improve our operational costs, our service capacity? Thinks about it. And the IT manager has been in some IT steering committees recently, and she hears, like David said, that SAP's got an agent. And she's been hearing in her IT steering committees that Maximo and ServiceNow have an agent. And she also hears in her committee meetings that Salesforce has an agent. And she's remembering her past 20 years of experience. These companies are operating in silos. Her thought is, well, if we could get these agent automations to have the back order history from our service work order management system and have our priorities for that, and then have our asset supply chain information from SAP. Well, there's the SAP Joule AI. And if we can coordinate that through some sort of orchestration agent and then have, like, I don't need to build, MuleSoft doesn't need to build another agent, right? We just get these agents we already have just to work together more efficiently, right? So, and then of course, safety and policy is important. I know MuleSoft is class leading around API security, API management, like David was telling you about. Janice knows MuleSoft and works together with the business analyst and maps together all these processes, maintenance, work orders, optimization, supply chain, and realize, hey, there's an agent for each of those areas. What can we do? And she knows MuleSoft Fabric. So she orchestrates the existing agents and tools with our fabric broker. And it's low code. It's a text-based file where we just point to each of those resources. There's no protocol programming. It's pretty easy. We'll look in more on how that works through the series, but essentially the agents like SAP, Azure, Salesforce, Maximo, ServiceNow are just coordinated together, and a broker coordinates to those. The key resources inside the organization that exist in data stores, maybe it's a SharePoint, maybe it's a team site, maybe it's a legacy file store, those are easily exposed as MCP services, just basically context, resource context that these agents can reference. So now everything is there. She has everything she needs to create this orchestration. And with our platform, as you'll see through these series, you can deploy a coordinated agent network in minutes. And that's what we'll be showing you through the course of this with these scenarios and others. Getting a Slack message or a team message and say, let's optimize the work orders in my refinery number 8, 9 or 10 or whichever, and pipeline number, and factoring in recent emergency maintenance done on 9231. So all the agents have everything they need to do to look at the backlog, look at the maintenance history, look at the prioritization, look at the safety procedures, look at the resources availability, and be able to produce an answer. Let me just give you a glimpse under the hood of what Janice did to make this real. She brought in an Agent Force work orders optimizer agent. So Agent Force is playing a key role by looking at the existing work orders and doing some advanced logic to optimize the work order priorities. The ServiceNow agent or the Maximo agent or whatever service platform you have. There's agents we work with. SAP is another example. And then we've got an Azure anomaly detection agent that can watch the information going on the pipeline or on the asset and such. So all those agents were listed. And then Janice just simply created a broker network that just coordinated the existing agents together. No agent creation was needed by MuleSoft. MuleSoft just brought them together. And then Janice used our existing advanced policy capability. We have over 30 out of the box policies and the ability to create more of them that have been around for over 10 years since MuleSoft's been in the industry of management policy and such. Policies were added to the agent, such as tracing and connection telemetry are very important policies for this because you want to be able to know who said what, who did what, and you can control the agents. If they go out of bounds, this you can put context policies on them to control the type of messages they even talk with each other about. Now, after those policies are just easily declaratively added to each individual agent, uh, now tracing is enabled across the call. So the call to optimize my work order priorities was initiated through a broker that just invoked the Azure agent, the SAP agent, the workforce agent to figure out who's the workforce, the planning agent, the work order. Again, could be any work order management system. Maximo's another I see quite a bit. And they all orchestrated together in seconds and got a response back in seconds. So these are the kinds of things I want to show you more around what can be done with Agent Fabric for the industry. This first series is really just the tip of the iceberg and a glimpse. Janice with this has been able to unlock others' assets and build this new innovation quite easily. So we're going to show you how it's done. This webinar series, we've built over 24 different assets that we're going to be looking at each of them, looking inside of them, seeing how they're each built and deployed and such. So with that, I want to go ahead and encourage you to continue to watch this series, sign up for series 2 and 3, where we'll go into some of those orchestrations. We'll see some of the responses from the broker. We'll do some really interesting things. It's really quite phenomenal, this next level of automation that's available with assets that already exist. So let me go ahead and stop there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael. I did get about 5 or 6 questions. I'll answer all of them and get them to everyone on the webinar today, but there are a few that I'd like to see if we could answer on the spot. One of the things that came up was, what is the difference between Agent Force and Agent Fabric? Can you expand and answer that for some of the folks today?
Yeah, I can go ahead and jump on that. It does get confusing. There are all sorts of agent words and fabric words and all kinds of words floating around the industry with respect to agent technology. First of all, let's clarify. Salesforce Agent Force and MuleSoft Agent Fabric are independent products. Agent Force can be used without Agent Fabric, and Agent Fabric can be used without Agent Force. With Salesforce's Agent Force, customers can get a platform for building and deploying autonomous AI agents. So there's an entire framework there for the prompt engineering, the integration with back-end data sources, all of the things that you need to build a really powerful and knowledgeable, trustworthy AI agent. MuleSoft's Agent Fabric and MuleSoft generally are not about building agents, but about providing all of the capabilities you need to manage agents as they expand in number across the enterprise. So, as we talked about before, the discovery, orchestration, governance, observability, these are all things that MuleSoft Agent Fabric provides. Agent Fabric focused on orchestration, Agent Force focused on the creation of agents. They work very well together, but also independently.
Thanks, David, for that answer. I have one more before we hop off. What makes MuleSoft suited to connect autonomous agents with legacy and modern systems? Is that for you, David?
I think I can go for that. That's something that Soft has always been really good at, and that's universal connectivity across domain vendor platforms, right? So we play well with everybody. Means we have built-in capabilities to connect to an SAP, to an Oracle, to a legacy application, to Microsoft, and we run these capabilities at our cloud or any vendor cloud or in a private data center. So we're the only vendor that allows customers to do their connectivity. And the reason this is important is because agents need to take action to be useful. I can get text-based answers from Google. My customers want agents that do actions. In this example, if we want the agent to update a work order, the agent needs to reach into where the work order is to do the update. If we want an agent to read telemetry data off of an asset device to monitor it, it's got to go to where that asset is, whether the SCADA information or historian, to be able to know what's going on with that asset. The agents themselves need an action layer, and that's what makes MuleSoft most uniquely suited for this, because we have the rich set of connections into those various systems we see. So I've been here at MuleSoft 7 years. There's never been a system we couldn't action in, and I think that's but what makes us most uniquely suited here.
Thank you so much, Michael. And in closing, for those folks that joined today, thank you so much for taking the 30 minutes to learn more about Agent Fabric for oil and gas. We're excited starting next week. We're going to dive into some simple use cases. So again, thank you for your time today. I'll respond with everyone's questions and respond in an email. Again, please take a snapshot of this QR code to dive into additional. Looking forward to next week with you guys. Thanks so much.